And welcome to this Degenerate Friday edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForest, going to be joined here by the professor, and we should have a big board for you and maybe some picks, although it's a little bit distressing to think. And Professor, how are you, my friend? Good to have you on the program again.
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing all right. A lot to discuss from the degenerate gambling world, and then of course we want to get to the special holiday edition with Father's Day around the corner of your big board and the lessons that can be learned there. But have you actually been? We speculated about this. Have you been cut off from betting Australian rules
It
football
looks
because of
like it. At
success?
least, at least on Magpies games. I can't. It's 2 weeks in a row. I can't find any numbers on Magpies games. Last week I couldn't find any. Period. So something's going on. I don't know if I've. This has honestly never happened to me, and I've obviously been firing away for years. But I don't think I've ever been cut off before. But it seems like there's a chance maybe I am.
Now, is it possible you could shop around to other sources to
I,
make?
I don't know where.
Is there only one place you can bet this stuff?
No, there. I guess I could try some of the offshore stuff.
Yeah.
But like when I fly to Sydney to get action down, like seems a little extreme. I honestly I don't know.
All right. Pretty unusual.
Honestly look. It's one of those things. It's such an edge uh, offering that there may have been like four of us actually playing this. Who knows? When you're dealing with various books, who knows what kind of action they're actually taking on something like Australian rules. I'm sure if I lived in Australia, I wouldn't have any problems finding it, but here seems to be an issue.
All right. So that's unfortunate because you were on fire there and not even getting the numbers anymore. They don't even want to know you. I'm surprised they haven't discontinued your account. You are, of course, a big fan of betting golf when the majors come around.
I
And
am.
I know you're especially inspired whenever you see Scotty Scheffler digging his way out of a deep hole in the rough,
I mean,
like the U.S. Open.
it's such a weird thing. Like this guy's odds are so ridiculously bad week to week, but there's like so many people out there in the let's call it the sports betting influencer or sports whatever category you want to talk about who are so into this guy. I know like Dave Portnoy at Barstool, for example, loves to bet on Scotty Scheffler. Like, how are you betting this guy at 2 and 3 to 1 in a freaking golf tournament? What's wrong with you?
156 players. You would have to think probably 30 or 40 of them are perfectly capable of winning the tournament, especially something like this, where it's kind of like the French Open for me, where the red clay tends to be quicksand for a lot of players. You'll see a lot of great players that struggle on that surface, or you'll see more possibilities of the number 150 guy in the world pulling off an upset against a Djokovic or one of the top players, even though it came out with 1 and 2 in the world this year. But the early rounds are particularly open to wild and crazy upsets. It's an equalizer, and the way they set up these U.S. Open courses, it certainly lends itself to the idea that it would be a good idea to stray away from the favorites.
I would think so, but then you look at the numbers, and honestly, I would say in terms of what it was before the tournament, it was extra chalky. You had Scheffler. I saw it close in one place at plus 225, which I
Wow.
think is even lower than Rory was at the PGA. And again, Rory was not great odds. I think he was 5 to 1 ish. Uh, DeChambeau, who's normally a guy in the 15-ish range, was going off at like 9 or 10, and Rom was 11 or 12. So like it kind of expanded. Went from last time around was basically three guys who were sort of at top to four, and then you had some suspiciously low drops. Neiman must have taken piles of money, as we talk about. I saw him open at like 30 or 40 to 1. I dropped down as low as 22.50 in some places. Um, I mean, are you getting some guys who are extra? Yeah, like Shoffley went off longer than he was going, particularly last year, but he's played like crap this year and he's coming
Yeah.
off an injury. So, sort of a natural. If anything, it seems like it's more chalky than in the past. So,
Uh,
we'll see. As discussed, I kind of like the fact that these U.S. Open courses seem to bring uh, kind of the nobodies more into play because you take a shot and you hope you hit one.
It's weird to me, and the rough would be the key. As Don King would say, the trickeration of the greens. Where oh, that was Ali. But the of course, ends up being a great equalizer. And if you're slightly offline, as they say, when you used to hear Peter Ellis saying, "Oh, it's a pity that ball was slightly offline," you're screwed. You're fucked because
I mean, you saw it a lot, particularly in some of the feature groups yesterday. Um, guys would hit, let's say, at the front of the green and try to roll it on, and the first guy would take a shot and roll it within 6 feet in the cup, and the next guy would try to follow the same line, but it landed 1 foot short of the other one, and it rolls back down the hill to your feet. So again, you're dealing with like a putt putt situation here, which again, from a betting standpoint, I think it makes it a little bit more interesting. Look, we can go back to these last two tournaments where we saw Rory surge at the Masters on Sunday. And, there were a moment here and there where you thought somebody else might get in it, but you spent most of the back nine on Sunday feeling accurately like Rory was going to win. And then you got to the PGA, and really by the second or the third hole of Sunday, it was pretty obvious Scheffler was going to run away with it. Hopefully this will make for a more entertaining weekend. Although, let me say a big middle finger to NBC and the USGA for hiding the post 5 p.m. action on Thursday and Friday on Peacock on their
yeah.
stupid streamer that nobody wants to freaking pay for. I really don't know how the USGA, this is supposed to be, the public tournament that went with the idea that we're going to hide a few hours of the action on this stupid NBC streamer. I didn't like that at all.
No, especially if you're dedicating a lot of time during the day. I'm a big golf fan. I love watching this stuff, and I wasn't on it early in the morning. It was kind of cool, but I get home at 5 o'clock, and I'm thinking, all right, let me see what happened at the end of the tournament here. The late guys that teed off, and it's one of those things where you always ask, don't we have Peacock? Hey, don't we have Peacock? And of
And the
course,
answer is no. Nobody has Peacock.
nobody. You could put whatever you want on there, and I'd be hard pressed to go ahead and ante up the cash that it takes to go ahead and give myself access to it. All right, a lot of Bob Dylan type of stuff at the top of the leaderboard there, complete unknowns all over the place. So we'll see how it shakes out. The second round's already underway. Now, in terms of action, you are involved, and I love this. With some thoughts on the College Baseball World Series.
Yeah, back to, and look, this is another one of those how I fill my summer because I cannot stand to watch Major League Baseball games. Um, I know there's a lot of betting fans out there for baseball. I got to tell you, no sport. I can't think of any sport that has seen the odds radically reshuffled the way Major League Baseball seems to have been in the last 2 or 3 years with the expansion of the betting apps. I mean, PC and I talk about this a lot. You used to see minus 200 favorites like once or twice a week,
Yeah.
and it was always like the monster pitchers. It was also like when Clayton Kershaw was in his prime, you might see his start or Max Scherzer, these guys who were like dominant pitchers. You might see a minus 200. Now you see 2 and 3 a day, and it's not uncommon that you see them, particularly if it's like the White Sox or the Rockies involved, to see a minus 300 or minus 350. Somebody was talking about it yesterday, like, oh, I put together this parlay and I got the Astros minus 315. I was like, well, did you take the game in the middle of the game when they've already scored? Like, no, it was minus 315.
Wow.
And they're playing the White Sox. And look, I get it. The White Sox are unbelievably bad, but like these are the kind of odds you never saw regularly in baseball. Now it's a everyday thing. So I don't know how anybody's making any freaking money on Major League Baseball, frankly. And
Yeah,
and
you have to go in spurts. And look, there's a lot of luck involved in the timing of this. But we were talking earlier in the week with Scotty M, and I'm looking in the standings, and I'm seeing that the LA Dodgers, who are probably prohibitive favorites in every game they play, no matter who they're going against, unless maybe it's the teams in their own division that are chasing them. But they were 16 and 16 over a 32 game span. So You're thinking even though you only went 500 in terms of price and odds, you probably made yourself a pile of money if you were going against them during that entire time. But
Yeah,
you know
again, I'm not
when
disagreeing.
to jump off.
I'm not disagreeing, and I give all the credit in the world to people who have the time and patience to put into it. But you know me, I'm also the kind of guy that if I take action on it, I want to watch it.
Yeah,
Not to say I've never done it, but generally speaking, if I've got action, I want to see it. And I can't stand to watch Major League Baseball games anymore. Like it just the whole Moneyball style of hit home runs and try to walk and strike out a lot just does not. We've talked about it before. Like
yeah,
the average Major League Baseball game is like 5-3 on you know 3 solo home runs and 1 2 run home run anymore. It's awful to watch.
yeah.
Um, so all of this is a long way around to say, well, I'm not an expert. I've gotten very into the college baseball playoffs the last couple of weeks, and we do have some opinions on these games in the first round of the College World Series. We got 2 today, 2 tomorrow. Today we got Arizona going up against Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina going off as a big favorite. Some would say a prohibitive favorite at minus 260. I think Coastal's got a nice team. They pitch really well. But Arizona's lineup has been red hot throughout these last couple of weeks. And I think you get pretty good value there. I'm showing it right now at plus 185. You might get a little price fluctuation one way or the other there, but I think the Wildcats are pretty good value there. Coming in swept out of the regional, and then beat North Carolina pretty badly in the last 2 games of the Super Regional after opening up poorly. But I believe they scored double digits both of the last 2 games. So a hot lineup going against the Coastal Carolina team, who is more pitching focused. They're probably not going to run away with you with the bats. So like the Wildcats there. Second game, we were actually looking to go with Oregon State. But now the number's up to minus 200, so that's probably a pass. But then 2 games tomorrow. You got Murray State and UCLA. Murray State, the Cinderella of the tournament, blasting through the Vanderbilt region and then through Duke over the weekend. And now coming against UCLA getting plus 190 in the first game, which if you watch these games, the way that Murray State lineup hits up and down, got to feel like you got a shot at plus 190 there. And then you get in the last game, which is sort of the feature, which a lot of people are saying is pretty much whoever wins this game is going to go on to win the championship, and that's Arkansas and LSU. Now, I have not watched Arkansas all year long. My buddy PC has, but pretty much everybody I know who I would say is a college baseball sharp who has been watching college baseball all year long has said Arkansas has pretty much been the class of college baseball all season long. I think pretty good value price there at minus 125. Like Arkansas in that last game.
All right, college baseball action, picking it up with the World Series. A great event, by the way. Had a chance to be out there a couple of times for it in Omaha, Nebraska. Not exactly a favorite tourist destination, but nonetheless,
Yeah, it's not really where you plan your vacation, but
no. You rarely hear anybody say, "I want to go to Oklahoma City," or, for that matter, certainly Omaha, Nebraska. Unless
I mean,
you're
the thing is, Oklahoma City is like a metropolis compared to.
But the event itself, if you're a sports fan and you like this kind of grassroots stuff, at least back in the day when I was involved, which was early 90s, it was a pleasure and a lot of fun. It was nice to see the response of the people there. And you get people from all over the country coming in to back their team. So, and a good piece of competition also. But if you can make some money on it, you have the Professor's Plays. Now, we have Father's Day coming up.
Okay, before we do that,
Yeah.
I want to ask you if you've seen this because it has been all over the internet. Have you seen this kid who's holding the $270,000 futures ticket and the debate around him over the last week or so?
No, I have not.
Okay, so there is a kid. He is, I guess, on DraftKings. He's a recent college graduate from Binghamton. Um, Apparently 24 years old, unemployed, and still living with his parents. He's holding a futures ticket, which featured the LA Dodgers, who obviously have won, the New York Liberty, who I guess won.
They won the
I guess was
WNBA?
a winner. Uh, the Philadelphia Eagles,
Wow.
the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup. So he's 3 out of 5 legs there, and in the finals in both. He bet $13 on it with a potential payoff of $270,000.
Wow.
And as you know, with most of these apps, there's a cash out early button. At one point before, excuse me, Before the two series start, the cash out was like $110,000.
Might have
It
been
is
worse.
now,
Yeah.
as of yesterday, down to $60,000.
Oh, wow.
So here's my question. If you were a 24-year-old unemployed kid and you had gotten this far, how the hell did you not take the $110,000 when that was available?
Imagine, and you only had to hit the first three legs of a 5-element parlay.
I mean, let's just assume he thought that the Oklahoma City series was a lock. That he was with which obviously right now you're not feeling great about that one either. But he
No,
went with the conventional wisdom. He's like, they're 7-1 on the money line. They're going to win that. Like, what was the best case for Edmonton and Florida? You had to think of that as a total coin flip going in.
sure.
And again, you're an unemployed 24-year-old who's gotten this far on $13. How the hell did you not take the $100,000?
How did his parents not make him do it?
That's the thing, and all the excuse me.
He may end up winning the big
There's
pie.
a lot of sharp community out there who's like, well, no, you can't take. You could 270. It's less than half. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, but you have to be realistic. You're 24 years old and you're unemployed. Like, you have to take the $100,000.
$100,000 on $13. I would probably be inclined to take it every time. And,
Right?
and even if Edmonton and the Oklahoma City Thunder prevail, or rather, what does he have? He has Edmonton or the Panthers?
He's got Edmonton and he's got Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. Boy, he sure got lucky last night to preserve his chances of hitting with Edmonton, as it looked like they were
This
doomed.
is my point, right?
Yeah. And Indiana, if they win tonight, which is entirely possible, even though
I mean, I assume if Indiana wins tonight, the cash out is gone. The DraftKings cash out is really, you get nothing.
yeah, we'll sweat this out with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
To hedge or not to hedge? That's a Shakespearean question. I think where DraftKings and FanDuel around when Shakespeare was coming up with this stuff, that would have been the line instead of.
I mean, I looked at him wrong. I get the logic of true odds versus cash out odds. I understand the math behind it, but at some point, I think you have to start factoring in what your real world circumstances are, which I think get ignored in all these debates.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting what over 1,000 to 1 at that point? No, you're getting 10,000 to 1. Not bad. I mean, anytime I can get 10,000 to 1, I'm probably taking it.
Right?
Especially since you don't even have to be right, and he could be wrong about both of the other series and end up 3-2 on the proposition bet. So yeah, I'm with you, Professor. I would have taken $100,000 is a substantial amount for anybody, or even the richest of people.
I mean, particularly on $13.
$13 play. That's me all day long. All right, Father's Day around the corner, and you have an interesting spin on this with this week's edition.
We do.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's pull it up here. And that is, we did the big board this week, and it is the big board of the worst sports fathers ever. I felt the need to contextualize this on the other show, and we'll do it.
Yeah.
We don't, at worst is a subjective term.
Sure.
We're not talking about like Mary Pierce's dad, who viciously beat her, and I believe was subject to a sexual assault incident with her. Like, we're not talking about the actual worst. We're talking about the worst while still being kind of funny, not the actual worst.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that's a fair clarification.
there are a lot of like true monsters out there in the world of sports who
Sure.
we're not talking about, because that's not what we're going for. And that takes us to number 5, which is Manny Pacquiao's dad, who, I don't know, you may even met at some point.
Never met his father.
Manny Pacquiao's dad, who caused Manny Pacquiao to run away from home at age 12. The reason why? Because he cooked and ate Manny's dog.
Oh,
He was
jeez.
12 years old.
And that was to teach him toughness, no doubt. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I've seen the story both ways. I've seen it that he was like trying to tough him up and teach him how rough the world is, and the other was like they were just so poor that he cooked the dog one night. I'm not sure. Obviously, if they were just that poor, it's not particularly funny. If it was some psychotic sports father lesson, that's pretty extreme. Like, we're just going to cook and eat your family pet.
If I was looking at boxing and not going into the real macabre, but I probably would have thrown Angel Garcia, the father of Danny Garcia, who constantly represents him in a disgraceful fashion. And while the kid seems to be one of the nicest gentlemanly types that you find, typical in the sport, the father's an absolute maniac. And yet they still remain very close. All right, that's number 5, Manny Pacquiao's old man. cooking and forcing Manny to eat his dog. I don't know why there's humor in that, being a dog lover like you
I
are.
don't know either, but there is somehow.
Yeah, it's strange, yes.
Number 4 takes us to godfather of all of this, which is Marv Marinovich, and not just because he decided to marry and breed with the most redheaded woman in the history of redheaded women and produced the ultimate ginger in Todd Marinovich. For those who don't know, Marv Marinovich was an NFL offensive lineman who decided he was going to make his son into the ultimate quarterback prospect. And to some degree, it actually worked. But part of the whole process was Todd wasn't allowed to have sugar his entire life while living under his dad's roof. He wasn't allowed to have processed flour. He was forced into all sorts of workouts and studying and whatever. And the punchline was the second he got out of his father's house, he started doing cocaine, ended up with a heroin habit and quitting the NFL to paint on the Santa Monica Pier. So let's just say the psychological damage may have been more beneficial. I mean, may have been more disastrous than the nutrition and training was physically beneficial. I mean,
Mark,
again,
yeah.
can you imagine being as redheaded as this guy? A kid so red hair that even Bill Walton was like, "God damn, that's red." Can you imagine? You're like 6 years old and you go to a birthday party and you already look like Ronald McDonald. And while all the other kids are having a cookie puss, you got to sit there and eat a flourless, sugarless cake.
Yeah.
Looks like something the Hopi Indians would have made back in the 1600s,
Massive amounts of marijuana could enhance the flavor, as he
right?
was known as Todd Marinovich during his days. Even as a collegian.
I feel like if we're being honest, if he had just stuck to Todd Marinovich, he would have been a lot better off.
He would have been okay. Yeah, he would have been.
Unfortunately, he eventually became Todd Heroinovich. So,
As you say, very sad indeed. That's number 4. Marv Marinovich,
and
father.
Marv was in many ways sort of the guy who set the tone for a generation of insane sports fathers,
Yeah,
and led us to, among others, number 3, Lionel Messi's dad, who was like, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to be your financial advisor, son, and my main advice is we're not paying taxes ever," which of course, very famously, about 5 or 6 years ago, led to a case where Spain was trying to put both Messi and his father in prison for a decade.
wow.
That was the level of tax evasion that was going on, which I think, honestly, if you're like with the Spanish IRS
Yeah,
and you notice, Messi makes like $1 billion and he doesn't pay any taxes, I think that would be kind of a red flag.
yeah. When he's sending in $8 and expecting a return, that's not a good sign that he's being compliant. That's for
Well,
sure.
as we talked about in previous show, maybe that's why Messi keeps playing for Inter Miami. Is like, yeah, like he's still paying back the tax man in Spain.
He's 50 years old playing minor league soccer, and everybody's making a big deal about it, like it was Pele in the SL, which, at least there people acknowledge that the guy was finished at the time. And you were saying that the father, his defense was that he didn't know that any money that was made off the field actually counted towards his
Correct. That was
obligation.
his defense during the trial, was that he didn't know. Which, first of all, if that's the case, why are you managing your son's money? If you don't understand that, yes, that $100 million that Adidas pays you, you have to pay taxes on. What do you think that was just a present?
That was
Like I don't understand.
Yeah. Good number 3, Lionel Messi's father, getting him in a financial jackpot, nearly sending him to prison. Number 2, worst sports
Number
father.
2, and again, he's sort of now the model for this current generation of sports dads, and that is one Earl Woods, who was, of course, part of the most uncomfortable commercial all time after Tiger got busted banging hookers and porn stars, doing a bunch of drugs. He had to do that commercial where Nike made him have a fake conversation with his father, who was already dead,
Yes.
which was shot in black and white, where Tiger was on there with his very serious, I dishonored myself and my family and embarrassed my sponsors and blah, 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 blah. And let's be honest, if Earl Woods had been alive, from what we now know about Earl Woods, his response would be, "What'd you do, Tiger?" "Well, Dad, I banged a bunch of porn stars and did a bunch of drugs." Earl Woods' responsibility, and so what are we in trouble for? Like, is that the point of all of this? Was
Yes.
like, so we can make $1 billion to go bang Denny's waitresses and do cocaine? Like, I don't understand what the issue is.
Yeah, I mean, talk about chip off the old block. Yeah, and that commercial was an embarrassment. It was pathetic, and he was going to embrace his Buddhism and all of this other stuff. I mean, typical farcical approach by Tiger Woods, who
I
I
mean,
don't know.
honestly, Earl's issue might have been, wait a second, Denny's waitresses? Come on, man.
Yeah,
You could do
perfect. I
better
think
than that.
even worse. Denny's at least is a more representative chain. Probably has better looking women serving you your pancakes. All right, that's number two. Number one on the list, topping the list of the world's
Number
worst
one,
sports fathers.
and he combines both being an athlete himself and being a terrible sports father, and that is Karl Malone. For those who are unfamiliar
Mailman.
with this story, when Karl Malone was 20 and a sophomore at Louisiana Tech, he got involved with a 13-year-old and got her pregnant. This led to two children who both took their mother's name Ford. One, Demetrius, ended up being a offensive lineman with the Buffalo Bills for a few years. The other was Cheryl, who became a basketball player also at Louisiana Tech, then later won a WNBA title with the Detroit Shock, I believe was the name of Detroit's franchise when they won. And they tried to reestablish their relationship with their father. And Cheryl, when she went to her father when she was 18 years old, Carl's response was, I don't really see any point in us trying to establish a relationship now. And the kicker to this is after Carl got drafted in the first round by the Utah Jazz, the mother, Ford, in this situation, had to sue him for child support of $200 a week, and he fought the lawsuit.
Wow.
Can you imagine being a first round draft pick and all the mom wants is $200 a week, and you decide to put your lawyers on that?
Crazy. Makes Dennis Rodman look like the father of the year.
I mean, at least Dennis Rodman paid.
Yeah, and once in a while, I went to a game of Trinity Rodman, who now famously is dating Ben Shelton, the standout young tennis player.
I mean, look, if you were Sean Kemp and you had 19 kids or whatever it is, and you could get off for $200 a week for each of them, you'd be like, oh my God, like that's perfect.
Yeah, imagine. Not even the smallest of percentages of the amount of money that the mailman made by. You would have thought because he sent it in with a 13-year-old, he might have felt some sense of obligation there.
You would have thought, right?
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Good luck with your College World Series games. I'm glad to see that you're in action there with the aluminum bats. And unfortunately, I guess it's a badge of honor to be cut off by a betting site, is it
I
not?
guess it is. I mean, I'm not happy about it, so I don't. Let's take
Well,
a quick look at the leaderboard and see what's going on here. Well, go Victor Hovland. I mean, he's now in a tie for fifth.
oh
So
yeah, okay.
that's
Do you have him as one of your players?
I do have Hovland. So
Okay. He was
I guess
struggling
that'll be my
yesterday.
guy.
What was he? Was he +3 yesterday?
It was +1 yesterday.
Oh,
He's
+1.
2 under through 6 today. So
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, again, he doesn't win them, but he's another one of these dudes who's got a weird thing. Despite doesn't play that great on the regular tour, but seems to stick around at all these majors. He always seems to be sort of just off the pack there. So we'll see.
Very backable.
Maybe
What's the
this is the
price?
one at the huh?
What's the price on Hovland?
I took him at 50 to 1 before the tournament.
50 to 1. Yeah, worth a shot. I mean, he's not a nondescript European schmank, but he is a European schmank
There
and
you go.
perfectly capable of rising the occasion, much like your man Justin Rose, who unfortunately
Not this weekend.
shot himself right out of the tournament in round number one.
Yeah.
Professor, great job as always. Thanks so much. You have a great weekend. We're going to see you later on at a parimutuel facility. We'll be
We will.
Millstream Park later on this afternoon, punching away. I actually have a couple of small tickets to cash, so that's good.
Nice.
Well,
Got any theme
substantial.
for the early races for us?
No,
You
nothing.
gotta come up with
Haven't
something.
looked at the card there, but what we
All
should
right.
see, the racing kind of declines at Gulfstream and is sort of inconsequential once they get past the championship meet.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's I wouldn't say it was a B grade type of card that they put on, but it isn't exactly the kind of stuff that you're going to find at
But
Saratoga.
the facility's still great. So,
Facility's great, and we're going to have a good time out there. So,
all right.
anytime you're at a racetrack, you have to love it. All right,
There you
Professor, thanks so much for joining us. Always a pleasure. The Professor, ladies and gentlemen, with some college baseball plays for the College World Series. That is a very entertaining event when you're. I don't know that anybody goes out of their way to go to Omaha, Nebraska, outside of Warren Buffett and maybe Terrence Crawford. But it was, I don't know. Do you take him in that fight against Canelo? Everybody I've talked to thinks that the bigger man wins all the time, and maybe Canelo can rise to the occasion. Now, this last fight of his was a disgrace with this kid Skull, who just ran the entire time. But Canelo famous for picking complete stiffs. I don't know what German graveyard they go to find his opponents for most of these fights, but as long as the Sheik is willing to pay, I'm not sure. Can Crawford actually give Canelo a fight? Haven't seen the odds on that yet, but it's hard to make the case that a guy can jump up that many weight divisions, no matter how talented, and be able to handle both the power of Canelo Alvarez and the fact that Alvarez has been hit by far heavier punches than Terrence Crawford. But you can't discount him completely. So I'm sure as that fight comes around, we'll have more analysis on that. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great weekend. Good luck with all of your plays. You do have OKC in Indiana tonight. Seems odd that Indiana is getting 6 points again. We've seen a lot of that in the basketball playoffs, where a team, Indiana wins game one, and they're bigger underdogs in game two. Oklahoma City did manage to cover the spread, but they have not been a good road team, as we were talking about with Mike Jones yesterday. In the postseason, I believe, is it 0-7 against the spread? So laying 6 points tonight with OKC seems prohibitive to me. And I'd be tempted, and I'd love to see the upset, because we love to see these people that bet on OKC in a series at 7-1, laying 700 to win 100. Find themselves laced with anxiety and gargling with Xanax, thinking, hey, down 3-1. That's a tough hill to climb. So we'll see what happens, but very tempted to take the 6 tonight with Indiana and see if they can't at least make a game of it and force OKC, even if they lose, into a situation where the game is tight. All right, we'll see you on Monday with a Peel Yourself Off the Mat edition of the program. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in all week long. Mike Jones will join us on Monday. I'm Jeff DeForest for The Professor. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.